today's title match. Iowa, Oklahoma, and Penn State were eliminated. Joining me is 84 Olympic gold and silver medalist Peter Vidmar. And Peter, who's the favorite today? Is it two-time defending national champion Stanford, or is it the host team and #1 seed going into the finals, Nebraska?
Well, if you're going to ask me to make predictions, I simply can't do it. The competition is simply that close. Coach Sadao Hamada certainly has a great chance for a three-peat. His team is innovative, they're fun, they're exciting to watch. He's got a great gymnast in Josh Stein, who was second in the all-around competition. But he's got his work cut out for him because they're in the Lions' Den. They're here in Lincoln. And Nebraska really has got to be the favorite coming into this. They won the preliminaries. Coach Francis Allen is almost guaranteeing, in his 25th year as coach, a team victory.
I think we're going to win by over a point. I just think that the strength in the all-around, it seems like the all-arounders, and you can ask Pete, seems like an all-arounder. The more you work him, the more he responds, the better he does. And I've got 5 good all-arounders, and I'm going to go to the bank with them.
Well, Francis is very, very confident about his team, and it's because these guys are very, very hungry. Francis has 7 titles. The team, though, the seniors, they have none. This is not a want. This is really a need.
And it's not a 2, but a 3-team match. Ohio State, who's in these finals, gave Nebraska a humiliating defeat right here in their home building earlier this year.
That's right, and because it was early in the season, Francis says it's not that important, but I know it's important because this team comes in knowing that they can beat Nebraska on their own court. They've got tremendous support from their senior Kip Simon, a real superstar. But most importantly, they're going to have to really depend on 2 freshmen. They're very tough gymnasts, Blaine Wilson and Drew Durbin. They're going to have to come through for Ohio State today.
Each school takes over 1 apparatus for each of the 6 rotations. Nebraska will start on the floor exercise. Peter?
Floor exercise is considered the most physically demanding event in gymnastics. Look for high, explosive tumbling sequences like this double layout. It's also important to have control over the stationary balance skills. If the gymnast is smart, he can rest up for tumbling sequences here. And because there are so many chances to make mistakes on landings, the gymnast must have great air sense to zero in on the ground and not take any steps.
Here's Nebraska senior and all-around champion Dennis Harrison.
And he starts with a round-off back handspring, full twisting double back flip, just a little hop. Interesting second pass. He does front tumbling. Very, very dynamic. It's a layout front flip with a full twist into another layout front. Now, I talked about resting here. Dennis is going to take a few breaths, get some oxygen in his lungs, and get ready for the second half of his routine. It's really good that Nebraska is starting first on floor exercise because this is an event that involves a lot of power and you really go all out. You don't have to control your performances like pommel horse. Certainly these guys are fresh. They want to start an event like this. They can go all out. Dennis gets ready for his last tumbling pass. Round off back handspring, full twisting double back again, same as the mount. Very difficult to do at the end of the routine. That's a great performance to start on. Now this second tumbling pass is a front handspring to a layout with a full twist right into another layout. Now, as we said, landings are critical. He does the full in back out, takes a little hop on the end because he lands on his heels, but he's got enough presence of mind to stay on his feet.
Dennis Harrison on floor exercise, 9.625. Stanford is over on the pommel horse. Jingwei Lang is up.
Jingwei came over from the People's Republic of China, where he was on their national team, went to BYU for a year, then transferred to Stanford about 2 years ago. Travels completely across the horse, on the pommels and off. Now look at this flare sequence. Traveling backwards, doesn't touch the pommels at all. Has a great toe point. He's really in control right here. Now the required single leg work, a pendulum swing, back and forth, scissor sequences. Getting ready for his dismount, does flares on the pommels, off the pommels, up to a handstand, full pirouette. That's a great start for Stanford on pommel horse.
Jingwei is a strong all-rounder, but the West Regional Championships competed only on the pommel horse.
And Stanford took a gamble on not competing him, but they had to rest him up, hoping that they'd make it into the finals. Now here's his flare sequence. He goes off of the pommels. He's not touching them. Then he goes up to the handstand, full pirouette. Very strong at the beginning.
Lang coming off a back injury, 9.775 on pommel horse. Ohio State is ranked #1 in the nation on rings. Kip Simons, a senior, is up.
And he's certainly a good reason why they're ranked #1. You'll see he's very, very powerful in this event. This is called a kip, not named after him. Right to a Maltese cross. Bounce to an iron cross. Rings is about 60% swing, about 40% strength. So he's got most of his strength sequences out of the way. Now let's see some swing. Back up rise to an inverted cross. Very, very difficult. Right back up to handstand. Getting ready for his dismount. So far, he's right on the mark. Double layout and a perfect landing.
Simons last night named the Nissen Award winner as the top senior gymnast in college athletics. 9.775. So standings after the first rotation, Ohio State 48-150 with Stanford 3/10 back and Nebraska trailing.
The 1994 NCAA Men's Gymnastics Championships is sponsored by MasterCard. It's more than a credit card, it's smart money. New Clairol Men's Choice, a new natural-looking way to blend away the gray. And by Canon, a world leader in cameras and office equipment.
Well, there's an ear of Nebraska corn I wouldn't want to see in my local supermarket, but they do turn out for their Huskers here at Nebraska. Coach Francis Allen seeks his 8th NCAA national championship. Each team will send 6 athletes to each apparatus, taking the best 5 scores. In this second rotation, Nebraska on pommel horse, Ohio State in the floor exercise, Big Ten Freshman of the Year, Blaine Wilson.
And most gymnasts begin by tumbling backwards. Blaine starts by tumbling forwards. 3 front flips in a row. Blaine's more powerful in his front tumbling. Tries to capitalize on his strengths. There's his press to the handstand. Takes a little breather. Working his way to the corner with a side tumbling pass. 2 front flips in a row. Once again, he hasn't tumbled backward yet. Now notice the chalk in the corner. The gymnasts mostly tumble barefoot. As a result, they sweat a lot in their feet. By having chalk in the corner, they can get rid of the perspiration, get a little more grip, move on to the next tumbling pass. Finally, he goes backwards. Layout double twist, punch front. Very short routine.
Blaine Wilson, the all-around winner at the East Regional Championships, comes up with a 9.6 on floor exercise. Over to the still rings, defending national team champion Stanford and Jingwei Lang.
The power event of men's gymnastics has to be the rings. Of course, you want to look for multiple strength sequences, including the famous iron cross. Also, solid swings from handstand to handstand. It's important to ensure that the straps don't swing back and forth. And then, of course, landings or dismounts are very, very important. The gymnast doesn't want to give any points away by hopping or stepping on the landing.
This is not Stanford's best event. As a team, they're ranked only 12th nationally.
And they're going to have to come on strong here. They really can't afford to have any weaknesses in the team finals.
Ohio State and Nebraska 1 and 2 in the nation on rings.
Jingwei does a kip to a very narrow Maltese cross. It's kind of like a planche, a very low planche. Does it right again. Lowers down to an L cross. Back kip to an L. And a straight arm press to a handstand. Now here's some swinging motions from a giant. Right back up to a handstand. Setting up for a dismount, double layout, and a perfect landing. Almost everything we talk about and looking for in a routine.
Sadao Hamada tallying up scores as Jingwei Lang pulls a 9.7 on rings.
A good solid performance from Jingwei Lang.
At the pommel horse, Che Bowers from Nebraska, the 1992 national champion on this apparatus.
This is a very smart routine for Che. He capitalizes on his strengths. He's very good at working lengthwise up and back across the horse. This is scissor sequence. Once again, he likes to swing lengthwise, facing that way, moving back down the horse. Doesn't touch the pommels. Right to a handstand. Very strong routine.
A senior art major, born in Saigon, graduated high school in Atlanta and came to Nebraska.
He's been a real plus for the Nebraska team, a real stalwart.
And this will really put the pressure on Stanford and Ohio State. 9.9 for Che Bowers as Evan Wells comes to the rings for Stanford. A junior out of Beaverton, Oregon.
And Wells is not the strongest gymnast physically, but he makes up for that on rings by some very innovative swing sequences. There's a straddle planche. Back hip to an L. So far, only a planche. Not a lot of strength so far. Giant to a handstand. Now watch this. This is a new trend on rings. He does a double back inside of the rings. Crosses the straps, goes the other way, drops in for his dismount. Oh, he completely lost power, completely lost power. This is going to hurt Stanford. They need good scores on rings. They're not going to get one here.
What happened to his dismount, Peter?
Well, as he crosses the straps here, it's very difficult to generate a lot of speed. He just doesn't quite get around on the double back inside the rings, and it's too late to pull a double back around there. Had to pull his knees through his ears almost.
Evan Wells will post the second sub-9 score for Stanford on rings. So with their worst event behind them, Stanford falls to third, a 1.5 behind leading Nebraska. College football has the Heisman Trophy. Gymnastics, the George Nissen Award, which goes to the top senior each year.
And handing the award out is George Nissen himself. He's the inventor of the trampoline, 80 years old, and he loves to do his handstand at every awards banquet.
Well, that's pretty impressive.
Not bad at all.
Kip Simons is the third Ohio State senior to receive this most prestigious award. In the third rotation, Nebraska on rings, Ohio State to the pommel horse, and Stanford to the floor exercise. This is Ian Backrack, a freshman from Longwood, Florida.
First tumbling pass is very difficult. It's a round off, whip into a full and back out. His hands never touch the floor like a standard back handspring.
Stanford, the top-ranked team in the nation on this apparatus.
And it's not necessarily because of the very powerful tumblers they have in the team, but they do very good transitions. Those are the skills that come in between the tumbling sequences.
The Stanford routines look a bit more stylish than those of Nebraska.
Yeah, they have a lot more style. Nebraska is very powerful in tumbling. These guys show a little bit of flair in what they do. Now, as he does this side scale, this Y scale, holding his leg, he's just sucking in wind, getting as much oxygen as he can to get ready for the next tumbling pass. Those are always placed strategically in the routine. Nice performance.
Ian Backrack for Stanford. 9.775. Looks pleased with that performance. Ohio State is the #1 team in the nation on pommel horse, and freshman Blaine Wilson is one of the reasons why.
Pommel horse is one of the most complicated and difficult events in the sport. Look for multiple flare sequences with the legs apart, single pommel work where the hands stay on one pommel for a series of skills. And then what separates the best from the rest is amplitude. Not just doing a skill, but doing it very well, with the hips high above the pommels and the body high above the horse.
Wilson and Drew Durbin, both local Columbus products, out of DeSales High School.
Starts by working on the pommels, then off. Down to the end of the horse. Here's a flare sequence. Notice how his hands never touch the pommels. He works across the horse without touching the pommels at all.
Is that more difficult?
It can be, absolutely. It's just a question of how the gymnast wants to perform the skill. And that's his strength, and so he does it that way. There's a scissor sequence picking up for his final part, dismount. Oh, completely off. Oh, this is a big mistake.
Looked like he missed with his left hand coming down on the pommel. But what are his options now?
Well, he has 30 seconds to get back up. Most gymnasts take less than that. And then just finish his routine. Pick up where he left off. There he goes, back to where he was. Works across the horse, does a flare, and now he just wants to get off.
How much will that cost him?
Well, at least 5/10 of a point for the fall, but things went wrong before the fall, so he probably lost up to 8/10 of a point.
Remember, only the best 5 of the 6 athletes' scores will count for Ohio State.
Now, it looks like he's just off. His hand's too far back on the pommel. He leans forward to compensate, but overdoes it, and it just sends him off the horse.
Scott Foster already has a 9.0 for Ohio State, so Blaine Wilson's 9.05 will have to count.
And these freshmen really are going to have to come through later on if they're going to win this title.
Nebraska's final athlete on rings, Dennis Harrison, last night in the team preliminaries captured the NCAA all-around individual championship.
It's very comforting for Francis Allen to have a gymnast like Dennis Harrison on the team. He's strong everywhere. You can bank on very good scores every time the guy goes up. 2 crosses in a row. There's a backup rise to a handstand. And here's a fairly simple skill. He does a backup rise into a straddle. Looks nice, but doesn't get a lot of points there. Hollow back press to a handstand. Setting up for his dismount now. Giant dislocate. Half in, half out. Another perfect landing for Dennis Harrison.
And he knows it. Harrison extends Nebraska's lead with a 9.75. Stanford moves up to second, and Nebraska's lead now 1.35 at halfway.
And that's significant. Francis Allen said they'd win by a point. They're already over a point ahead. They're only halfway done.
Welcome back to Lincoln, Nebraska, where the host school seeks its 8th NCAA championship today. In spite of all of the excitement and electricity here at this 52nd annual NCAA Men's Gymnastics Championships, there's a dark cloud looming over the future of this sport at the college level.
Athletic departments across the country are in financial crisis. This is compounded by the forced compliance of the gender equity ruling, a ruling designed to create more athletic scholarship opportunities for women. In many cases, however, this has created the reverse effect. Schools dropping men's sports in order to fall in line with the gender equity mandate. Men's gymnastics has been a prime target for elimination. As a result, the number of Division I programs has fallen below the NCAA mandate number of 40, the number that qualifies a sport for championship status.
I think the reason for the decline is primarily financial, and with the advent of gender equity, that has caused a financial strain on many institutions.
Gender equity is part of the problem. Where it gets implemented is you just can't drop a women's sport anymore. If there are financial considerations or problems, you can't drop a women's sport. You have to drop a men's sport.
Financial was a component of the reason to drop the sport because we're in a situation, all athletic departments throughout the nation are in a situation where there are external legal and external financial pressures falling on each of our athletic departments.
Once the home of Olympic and national champions, perennial power UCLA wore black all season to protest the announced dropping of their program, something that caught freshman Spencer Slayton completely off guard.
I knew that gymnastics was in trouble, NCAA-wise, and that a couple of programs were, on the verge of being dropped, but never UCLA. They never gave me any notification whatsoever that it was going to be possible that the team, was going to be dropped because of financial problems.
Former Nebraska Olympians Jim Hartung and Phil Cahoy are an example of how men's gymnastics follows the high road as a standard bearer for what is good about college athletics.
What does men's gymnastics do in terms of the NCAA? We do exactly what sports are supposed to do. Graduation, academics, sportsmanship, you name it. We pretty much do it. And I think to wipe out a sport like that would be a crime against sports.
The one thing we're going to try to do is convince the NCAA that we need a moratorium, that this is not a good time to be dropping a lot of sports, particularly ours. We think they ought to give a little more time to get gender equity and balance, and then take a look at things rather than just all of a sudden drop sports to save money.
So, Peter, from your perspective, could this be the death knell of gymnastics as a college championship level sport?
Well, realistically, we're close, but it's not over. Let's not forget, these people, they're coaches, they're former athletes, they're competitors. They're not going to give up. They're not quitters. They're going to do all they can to save their programs and then try to somehow turn this around, make it a positive thing for not only collegiate gymnastics, but for the entire USA Gymnastics program. We've got to find a solution.
For the seniors here, like Ohio State's Kip Simons, their college future is only today. We'll be back with more from Lincoln, Nebraska after this word from your local station. Football coach Bob Devaney, for whom this building is named, is among those in attendance today. Entering the fourth rotation, Nebraska with a 1.3 advantage. They will be on the vault where they are the nation's #1 ranked team, and senior Dennis Harrison is up.
Dennis is a very powerful vaulter. Slams the board. Kasamatsu with a 1.5 twist. Wow, what a great vault.
Harrison likes it. Burkett Powell likes it. They're both seniors. The 4 seniors on this team have never won an NCAA team championship.
Look at the power that he gets off the horse. Tremendous height and distance allows him to get the 2 twists in and have a great landing.
And Harrison adds to the Nebraska momentum that is building here with a 9.6. For Stanford, Mark Booth comes to the parallel bars.
This is a very good event for Mark. Last year, had a big injury. He ruptured his Achilles tendon. Now he's back in form. Stitch to a handstand. That's a Diamidov all the way to the side of the bar. Interesting move. That's called an English press to a handstand. Getting ready for his dismount. Double pike. Very good landing. Little hop, though. It's going to cost him a bit.
The senior from Reno, Nevada, had Stanford's high score on the parallel bars this year, a 9.875 today. 0.2 off of that, 9.675.
They're going to need more of those scores, though, if they want to catch up.
Ohio State senior Kip Simons comes to the high bar. Another event where Peter Corman's Buckeyes are the highest rated team in these finals.
And certainly one of the reasons is because of Kip on high bar. He's very good, has a lot of release moves. Here's a release. It's called a reverse hecht into another reverse hecht into a ganger. 3 in a row. Very difficult, very meticulous. He was right on the money on those. This is a required dorsal grip. Inverted giants, we call those. Need very flexible shoulders. Now he's getting ready for a dismount. So far, everything's gone right according to plan. Double layout. Perfect landing. This is going to be a great scoring routine.
A no-mistakes routine for Kip Simons on one of Ohio State's better events.
Well, Kip really got the points on his release moves because this dismount is not a very difficult dismount. A double layout. It's easy to see the ground early, zero in, land just right, but it guarantees a good score.
Not flashy, but solid. Kip Simons, 9.725, puts the Buckeyes into the lead. Remember, they handed Nebraska a defeat earlier this season right here. They lead by 15 hundredths. Left, the 3 teams are separated by just a 1/4 of a point. Ohio State, the vault, not one of their best events, while Nebraska goes to their parallel bars where they're ranked #1 in the country, and Stanford will be on the high bar where they are ranked 4th in the nation. The Big Ten Gymnast of the Year, freshman Drew Durbin from Columbus, Ohio, for Ohio State on the vault.
I really like Drew's gymnastics. He's a very clean gymnast. He performs with immaculate form. He's always conscious of what he's doing with his form. There's a Kazumatsu. Layout with a full twist off of the horse. Now look at his form. He's got tremendous speed as he approaches the horse. But what I like is the way, look at his fingers, all the way down to his fingers. Just his hands are together. It's a very crisp, clean vault.
Well, he looked concentrated, but not pleased at the end of that one. And that's why 9.2 is his score.
Well, vault is typically a low-scoring event, and all the teams have to expect that when they go to vault, they're not going to get the big scores like they might find on high bar or parallel bars.
Last year, Jair Lynch led Stanford to a second straight national championship. To repeat, they'll need a big performance from Jingwei Lang here on the high bar.
If one event is labeled the real crowd pleaser, it's got to be the horizontal bar. Considered the most exciting event in gymnastics because of skills like one-arm giant sequences, multiple release skills, and certainly the most spectacular dismounts in the sport. Gymnasts can really make a statement when they stick that landing. And this is one of Jingwei's best events, the high bar. He's very crisp, he's very clean. Starts with a stalder up, over the top. Setting up into the dorsal grip requirement. Those are these inverted giants, but he does an actual flip out of the inverts. It's blind, very difficult to catch. Getting ready for his dismount. Big tap on a layout, full out. Oh, didn't get the rotation. Put his hands down. That's a big deduction. That's going to hurt. Jingwei does a very strong tap, meaning he pikes a lot over the bar. This is very typical for many of the Chinese gymnasts. Then he arches quite a bit. That gives him a lot of height, but it's hard to rotate, and he just doesn't get around, so he puts his hands down.
For Lang, 9.35. And Stanford needs better numbers than that.
And they're going to need them fast because Richard Grace is typically a very high-scoring performer on the parallel bars. He was the all-around champion at the Olympic Festival last year. Interesting routine. He goes all over the bars. He goes from one side of the bar all the way to the other. Right now he's in the middle. He's doing another giant swing to a front uprise on the other end. Much different than the typical parallel bar routine. Now he's back in the middle. Diami'd up all the way to the side of the bar. So far, he's right on, gets ready for his dismount, double pike. A step back, but it's still a very solid routine.
Grace was headed for Oklahoma until a scholarship opened up here at Nebraska. And 9.825 will tie his season's best. Kip Simons comes to the vault for Ohio State. And as you mentioned, hard to match those kind of numbers on the vault.
It really is, and I'll tell you, vault is such a low-scoring event. These guys know they've got to pull out all the stops, do their best vaults of their life if they want to stay in the competition. Another Kazumatsu, perfect landing, a very good vault, but once again, what kind of a score is it going to bring? Will it help to offset a very high bar score or a high parallel bar score? We'll see.
It's a good score for the apparatus, 9.4, but it kind of pales in comparison to the scores on the parallel and high bars. On each of the apparatus, Dennis Harrison is the final performer for Nebraska. Last night he won the all-around, and today has a chance to reach another lifelong goal.
Yeah, this is definitely, what I came to Nebraska to do, and why they brought me to Nebraska was to help them win another team championship. And so far, my 3 years prior to this, I haven't been able to do the job for them. And tonight is the reason why I do college gymnastics, to go after the team championship. And the all-around championship's nice, but if we don't win the team championship tonight, then there'll definitely be a void in the four seniors' career here at Nebraska.
Last year they were undefeated until the final round of the national championship, losing to Stanford. In this event, Nebraska, #1 in the nation by a full 4/10 of a point. Couldn't have picked a better event to try to break this three-way log jam.
Especially this time right now. Dennis is very strong here. We know he's a big team player, but it's because of individual performances like you'll see here. Look at this, a peach to a handstand. It's called a back toss, the backflip in between the bars. Little bobble there, but he seems to be in control. This is called a Healy twirl. He twirls on one arm, a full turn, does 2 in a row, takes tremendous control. He does it as good as anybody. Setting up for his dismount. So far, he's doing fine. Double pike. Oh, with authority. Look at that landing.
In the final day of his college career, Dennis Harrison has a tremendous performance on the parallel bars.
Boy, he's having the meat of his life. That dismount was just incredible.
He knows it. And over on the Nebraska bench, they all do. Let's look at it again.
Yeah, this dismount was done so well. There's a different view of it. Notice how he has to push his arms off to one side to get to the other side of the bars. Does his double pike, and like the period at the end of a sentence, there it is. Boom, it stops right there.
Near perfect, and the judges agree. A career best for Dennis Harrison on parallel bars, 9.9.
And how does a coach motivate his athletes now? Sadao Hamada really has to get the best out of these guys. They're in big trouble if they don't get some super high scores now. They can't get that three-peat without him.
Well, one of his aces is freshman Jamie Ellis from Albuquerque, the only gymnast to do a back somersault over the high bar with a full twist.
Yeah, this is a spectacular routine if he can hit it. The problem is, look at the crowd right now cheering that 9.9. They're on their feet. It takes tremendous concentration for Ellis to be able to do a routine now, especially for a big skill like this one. Full twist over the bar. Oh, he's right off the bar. Oh, this is terrible. That's a major deduction. It could have been a great score. Now it's a big problem.
It was a one-in-the-world move. He's the only gymnast to do it, but he had to hit it just right for Stanford to still have a chance to pull off the team title.
This is one of the most difficult skills in the entire sport of gymnastics. I mean, I admire him throwing it. They had to do it, really, because they have to get a great score. But now it's a big deduction. Ellis just picks up where he left off. He's not going to do that trick again. Does a reverse check. There's a release move. Here's his inverts. Now he's just going to get off. And here's his dismount. It's a double twisting double back. It's very difficult. Done very well. Think what score that would have been had he made that release move.
Jamie Ellis went for it all. Stanford needed it. Finished up great, but that is going to hurt.
Well, let's try to see what happened. He had a lot of rotation, got up and over the bar, didn't quite get turned around enough to get a grip on the bar. You can see the bar just fling right off.
Well, it's a 9.25 for Jamie Ellis, and what a great score that coulda, woulda, shoulda been. Nebraska comes from 10th behind to now take the lead by a whopping 1.2 points. With one rotation remaining, Ohio State slips to third. Coach Francis Allen's Cornhuskers may just be on the verge of an 8th national championship. Needs a clean final rotation on the high bar to become national champions. Sumner Darling, Dennis Harrison, Shea Bowers, and Burkett Powell, the four seniors of Coach Francis Allen's team that have never won the national team championship. They're on the verge of it right now.
And Francis certainly has a lot of confidence in his guys. He knows they can do the job. He's not going to do anything different. The guys are just going to go out there and try to do their routines. Francis doesn't talk a lot. Doesn't really get the guys fired up during the competition. That happens in workout.
Burkett Powell getting ready for the high bar. And Jingwei Lang for Stanford to the vault.
He does an interesting vault. Watch this. He runs down the runway, does a round off before he even hits the board, approaches backwards, half turn, handspring front, great landing.
Very unique approach for Jingwei Lang. in what will be a tough final rotation for Stanford. 9.7, good score.
That's a very good score for vault, but we can't necessarily expect those kind of scores from all the other vaults at Stanford. Once again, it's a low-scoring event.
Senior Burkett Powell, whose wife and son are among the fans in attendance today on the high bar.
And there's two wrong way salters underneath the bar. And here's some release moves. There's a reverse hecht, followed by another reverse hecht. Doing just fine. All Nebraska needs are nice, solid performances. Now Burkett gets ready for his dismount. There's his Giants. Double layout with a full twist, one step. That's okay. It's going to be a good scoring routine.
Well, some engineering company is going to get a great gymnast. He carries a 3.74 grade point average. What a great performance as well. 9.625 for Burkett Powell. For Stanford, Keith Wiley on the vault.
He's also a very powerful vaulter. Kazumatsu, 1.5 twist. Oh, it was a good vault. Took a step in the landing, but he had a lot of power on that.
9.6, good numbers on vault for Keith Wiley, trying to keep Stanford's hope for a three-peat alive. Another Lincoln High graduate, Jason Christie. A sophomore. Has a twin sister, Jenny. Rick Kiefer is also a twin on this Nebraska squad.
I'll tell you, Jason's a very tall gymnast, and that looks good on high bar. He's also flexible. Watch this. Sucks his legs right through the bars. A lot of flexibility, and it's very impressive for a tall gymnast. Another in-bar stalder. Team ready for a release move. There's a reverse hecht. Another reverse hecht. So far, Francis Allen can start smiling. Looks like the team's doing just fine. There's his inverted Giants. Nice and extended. All he's got to do now is a dismount. And it's a half in, half out. Very simple dismount, but done very well. It will still score very high.
Well, Christie's had a great meet. Already a career high on the parallel bars, 9.725 there. And a great performance on the high bar.
Now we take a look at these double release moves. This is the reverse hecht. He needs to be a little bit farther out to do that reverse hecht again, and he's a little too close to the bar, so he bends his arms to make it over the top. Nonetheless, he's still going to score well.
9.825. Jason Christie extends Nebraska's lead. Coach Sadao Hamada, this year graduated Olympian Jair Lynch and two other seniors, and his young squad is unable to overcome the Nebraska juggernaut.
And Mark Booth now in the vault. He's their last vaulter. Kazumatsu, 1.5 turnoff. He's completely off. Completely off. I'll tell you, this is an example of the way the competition has gone for Stanford throughout the day. They have a chance to really make a difference. Then something goes wrong. They got to regroup. Just happened all day. It's just too bad.
But Booth and Chris Say will graduate with 2 national team championships, not 3 today, no three-peat. And Ohio State, who came here with 4 freshmen, will really look strong in the coming couple of years. But the day has belonged to this man, Dennis Harrison. He is the final performer for Nebraska on the high bar.
And what a great way for Dennis to end, and what a great day for Nebraska to end with Dennis here on the high bar. Their last guy, the backbone of the team, all-around champion. It's as quiet as it's been all day.
Kind of a reverence.
Full pirouette. Here's a reverse hecht, his release move. Right into a flyaway half turn, a ganger. That's the most difficult part of his routine. Now let's just get a few things out of the way, get ready for a dismount and a celebration. There's a pirouette. Now for a few giants. Winding up for a half in, half out. There's Dennis Harrison, who led his team to the NCAA Gymnastics title, finally.
And for this team, who earlier this year lost to Ohio State right here, and last year went undefeated, but lost the national championship to Stanford, it is now payback time and so much more.
Here's his dismount. It's a half in, half out. Not very difficult. Watch his head as he lets go of the bar. His head is way back. It allows him to see the ground early so he could zero in on the landing.
Each of these athletes had to look at the 7 national championship trophies in Coach Francis Allen's office. They didn't have one to call their own, and now they will. Harrison's 9.75 gives Nebraska a victory by 2.3 points. Now, Coach Allen had predicted a 1-point margin. Wow.
Yeah, big difference. I mean, this is almost record performance here. 288.25 is an incredible performance for the entire team.
Yeah, they went for it. They went for it. You know. Yeah, the guys went for it. Of course, and that's a character of this team. We went undefeated last year. They went undefeated last year and lost in the finals. So they have a very strong back, and they showed it today.
Burkett Powell celebrates with wife Cara Jean and Burkett the second. But today's star was Dennis Harrison.
Waiting the 4 years for it, I think, makes it that much better, you know, because we waited, we won it here in front of our hometown crowd. It was just the most unbelievable feeling I've ever had. It was great.
Nebraska wins the team title. Here are the NCAA individual champions.
Competing under new rules in finals, the scoring was much tougher. Most gymnasts who were scoring 9.8s in preliminaries were dropping to 9.2s and 9.3s in the finals. But not New Mexico's Chris Lamort. With the ring routine packed with difficulty and as strong as any gymnast on the planet, this sophomore won his 2nd straight NCAA title. In spite of possibly their last appearance, UCLA still went home with individual titles, from Steve McCain winning on the vault and Jim Foodie on the horizontal bar. And first place stayed out west on the pommel horse, with Cal's Jason Bertram winning the gold. Stanford's Mark Booth rebounded from the team competition by winning first place on floor exercise, and Richard Grace added more luster to Nebraska's weekend by capturing first on the parallel bars.
As the celebration continues here in Lincoln, with Nebraska receiving their team championship trophies, stay with CBS Sports for third round coverage of the Bell South Classic next. And later tonight, a CBS Sports special, Artistry on Ice, featuring Oksana Bayul and Nancy Kerrigan. For Peter Vidmar, I'm Mike Joy. So long from Lincoln, Nebraska.